Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Homendy, and I'm a board member with the National Transportation Safety Board. With me today, to my right, is our investigator in charge, Adam Tucker. The investigation is focused on vessel recovery. Currently, there are divers assessing the accident site and what's needed to recover the vessel. A plan is being finalized, and that will require approval from a number of entities before that is accomplished. We are actively monitoring a weather situation where we expect high winds to come in, and that may make it somewhat difficult to raise the vessel. We don't want to create safety issues for the divers, and certainly we want to make sure that folks on the barges are safe. It could create a safety issue with barges out there at that time. So there might be some delays in raising the vessel. I think we have emphasized what's important to us. If we have to take time to raise the vessel, that is fine. What we want to ensure is that the vessel is raised intact. So that's our main focus. In addition, yesterday I mentioned that we were conducting a number of interviews with crew members, and I wanted to come back and talk to you a little bit about what has been reported to our investigators in those interviews. And again, what I want to characterize those interviews as very cooperative. We interviewed the vessel owner-operator and some of the crew members, and again, it was a very cooperative discussion. They were very lengthy, detailed, comprehensive interviews. What's emerging from the interviews, and these are individual interviews with NTSB investigators, is a harrowing story of the moments before the fire erupted on the vessel. One crew member reported that he awoke to a noise and left his bunk and out of the wheelhouse deck and saw flames erupting from the galley area. He tried to get down a ladder. Flames had engulfed the ladder, and so the crew that was on the bridge had jumped down to the main deck, and one had broken their leg in that effort. The crew that did jump down reported that they had went to the double doors of the galley to try to get in, to get to the passengers, but it was engulfed in flames at that time. They then tried to go to the front part of the vessel to get into the window portion in the front of the vessel, and they could not get into the windows. At that point, due to heat, flames, and smoke, the crew had to jump from the boat, and they reported that two of the crew members had swam to the back of the vessel to the skiff. They got the skiff, they rescued the other two crew members and took them to a nearby vessel and transferred them to the vessel and tried to call 911 for rescue. At that point, they left the vessel and returned back to the Conception in the skiff to try to rescue any survivors. And so we wanted to share what has been reported to us in those interviews. Now, with that said, this is going to be the last press conference for us. It is not the end of the work for our investigators. Our investigators will remain or expect to remain on scene for at least another week. Also, when everyone does return to Washington, the investigation still continues. We will issue a preliminary report, as I said, from 10 days of the accident, and a final report should be expected in about 12 to 18 months. And during that time, if we have safety issues or safety concerns, we will issue urgent safety recommendations. For updates, please monitor our Twitter feed at NTSB_newsroom. And one thing I do want to say is we have gotten an overwhelmingly fantastic response from the public to witness at ntsb.gov. I really want to thank everyone who has sent in photos and videos and tips, because you do not know how important that is to our investigation. It has helped in other investigations, and we just really want to express our appreciation. So with that, I'm going to allow for questions. First, raise your hand. Second, state your name and your affiliation. And third, I just want to, one question. If we have to do more rounds, we can, but one question, please. Yep.
What is in the proximate area of the ladder from the bridge to the second floor that it potentially became engulfed so quickly? And what kind of a time lapse is he talking about from the time I heard a noise to the time he went to the ladder and couldn't get down because of the flame? So I'm trying to wonder what is in the galley area that could have caused that to occur so quickly.
For what is in the galley area, I mean, there are a number of things. There's obviously the stove area, the kitchen. There's a lot of wiring and electrical systems. There may have been, and we don't know this yet, there may have been gear charging. There was a lot of photography, videography, cameras, cell phones that were charging on the vessel itself. So we are not ruling out any possible ignition sources. We are focused on everything, including the electrical system and wiring. And so, that still is being investigated. You had your hand up before. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you about, I like what you said about the crew, this harrowing story. Many of us have in our minds Captain Smith going down with the Titanic, and did the crew do the right thing? Did they do everything they could to protect the passengers, or should they have stayed on longer? I mean, this is, when you hear the crew escaping and the passengers all being engulfed in flames, that was, I think, immediately what people were thinking about. But the way you described it today may put a different perspective on all this. Should we view that this crew is doing the right thing?
The question is, should we view this as the crew doing the right thing? First of all, let me characterize what I shared with you is from what we heard from them. So now it's our job to take that and develop a timeline. We'll evaluate that. We'll determine whether there were issues with evacuation or responses, or say, escape survival factors. We'll evaluate all of that as part of the investigation.
What should the crew do in a situation like this? Is the crew obligated to stay with the ship? Do they save their own lives?
That's part of the investigation. Yes.
Hi, Tom Bolton with News Talk here in Santa Barbara. If I understood correctly, you said 2 of the crew members went to the back, got the skiff, and then went back and got 2 others of the crew members?
So there were several crew. Do you want to? Why don't you clarify how many they went back to get? So it's 2 who swam to.
There was 1 crew member that went back on board the vessel.
Was that the captain?
We're still investigating, and we have not determined that yet.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2 get the skiff, go back, get the other 2, and 1 person goes back on board?
Yes.
According to their
Yep.
statement.
Okay. Great. Yes.
Amy Johnson with KCBS in Cape
Well, a safety briefing should always occur, and that's part of what we're looking into. We need to see the adequacy of the safety briefing and whether it was conducted, and we'll look at that as part of the investigation. Yes.
Megan with KSBY News. What's the health status of the crew members? Have they been released from the hospital and have all of them been interviewed at this point?
The health status. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm sorry. We'll try to get you that.
Have all of them been interviewed at this point, though?
We are still conducting interviews of the crews. Paul.
You expressed that there was a lack of fire extinguishers after you took that tour of the vision. Can you put a finer point on that? What did you see specifically?
Well, let me put that in context. I am not a survival factors expert. So personally, what I saw in the vision in the bunk room was one fire extinguisher. I saw another fire extinguisher in, I believe, in the galley area, and then one on the bridge. But that's something we have to look at as the adequacy of fire suppression systems, of course, and including the adequacy of the smoke detector system, which in this case was not connected throughout the ship through any sort of wiring from the bunk room up to the bridge. Yes.
James Ramos with KTLA. Can you disclose what type of stove the reception had, whether it was gas or
No, go ahead.
It was electric.
Yep.
I was going to ask you, when you said people jumped down from the top to the deck and couldn't get in, were there glass doors that were locked? There was flames, and secondly, when they couldn't get in the front, did any of the crew indicate they saw passengers on the second floor coming up from the bottom, but couldn't get at each other? Were they in the galley area?
What I will share is that they saw flames. They knew the passengers were in the galley. I mean, they're in the passenger compartment, the bunk room, right? They're in the bunk room. So of course, their efforts were to try to get to them, and they could not get through the windows.
Thank you. Patrick Healy, NBC4 Los Angeles. The continuing presence of the FBI at the scene. Is there a concurrent investigation into possible criminal activity?
I would refer you to the FBI.
Refer me to you since you're in charge of the scene.
Yeah, we're in charge of the safety investigation. We do not do criminal investigations. That's their lane, so I would say, I hate to say it, you're going to have to go back to them because our focus is a safety investigation.
But they have been assisting you at the site.
They've been assisting at the site, but that's a normal course of every investigation where they help us in preserving the evidence.
Do you see evidence of criminal activity that you will hand over to another agency?
We are only looking at the safety issues as part of this investigation. We are not looking at criminal issues.
Did any of the passenger or the crew members report hearing smoke alarms sounding?
For the crew, no. The one crew member reported who left his bunk reported that he did not hear a smoke alarm. Sorry, Mark.
Are these boats supposed to have just Home Depot style smoke detectors, or should they be wired into the alarm system and alert the wheel? What's
Do you know about the requirements?
For the regulatory requirement that the vessel was constructed for the year, those smoke detectors were not required to be wired to the wheelhouse.
And just to follow up on that, part of what we are looking at as part of any investigation is the adequacy of existing safety regulations. And if we find, which we have many times, problems or concerns with or gaps in safety regulations, we issue recommendations to strengthen them.
Is the Truth Aquatics two existing vessels are docked? Are they being not allowed to go out, or are they voluntarily not going out, or what's the status of their operations?
On the status of their operations, my understanding is they are not operating on their own accord. However, We do not have jurisdiction to tell them what to do as far as operations. That's solely within the Coast Guard's jurisdiction because they have regulatory authority. Amy.
In regards to the, you said the window that they couldn't get through to the window, is that something, that was another escape route that could be used in the bunk area? I'm a little confused. Was there only one way out of that bunk area?
For the bunk area, there is a stairwell in the galley. It's the forward starboard corner. So the forward right side corner, there is a stairwell that goes down to the bunk area, and then and what I will let me characterize this is in the vision. We still have to look at the vessel that is submerged, and so when we went into the vision, the emergency escape hatch is actually center line towards the aft portion, the back portion of the galley. And that's a hatch, like a square hatch.
In the galley, not in the bunk area.
No, it's in the bunk area but comes out in the galley.
You mentioned salvaging the wreckage. I assume that would be brought in on a barge, and I'm wondering where it would be brought in, if you know that.
The question is where the wreckage will be brought. We've looked at a couple of locations. It will be a secure location. We haven't finalized a location yet, though.
Probably not the Santa Barbara Harbor.
We don't know yet.
I'm sorry, it's not clear to me, did anyone in the crew see any of the passengers outside of the lower deck, the bunkhouse area, on the second floor in the galley area?
Do you have information?
We're still interviewing crew members. Thus far, no.
And then finally, that when they went down to the deck and they tried to get in through the rear deck into the galley area, were there
double doors.
Double doors. Do we think they were locked, or was it keyed?
No, it was flames. Yep. Okay, thank you very much. Please monitor our Twitter feed for future updates, and appreciate your time.